Aaron Borgmann, welcome to the show. How the heck are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh my gosh, can you believe it's going to snow today?
I was actually driving by a couple golf courses on the way here this morning thinking, I might be crazy enough to do it today. But, how many layers can I put on? How many holes can I get through? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw on like Foreplay Pod's Instagram yesterday, they were like showing somebody that was walking down a course and there was like 2 or 3 inches of snow on it. Like 100% commitment, got to play in the winter. But to me, it's going to be this typical Kansas City forecast is, hey, there's going to be snow, and then it doesn't snow. Mm-hmm. And then if there isn't a forecast of snow, it will snow.
Right.
Is how it works here.
Exactly.
I love Gary Lezak, but come on, can we get a little more accurate with this?
It's the only profession in the world where you can be half wrong and still be acceptable.
Yes, exactly. Which is something you probably can't do in your profession. That'd be horrible.
No, we'd all be fired.
Yeah. But, hey, tell our listeners about who you are, where you come from, just your background, how you got to Kansas City, and you do play golf. You just said you did. So
not well, but I do play.
That's okay.
So my name's Aaron. I'm originally from outside of St. Louis, a small town called Union, Missouri that most people haven't heard of.
Wow.
It's about 50 miles southwest of St. Louis.
You're going to crack up. My brother-in-law is from, starts with an H down.
Herman?
No, it's not Herman. It's straight south. I'll look it up.
Herculaneum?
No, you keep going. I'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I wwent to school in St. Louis, St. Louis University. I'm a Billiken, which more points if you know what a Billiken is.
I don't.
Exactly.
Enlighten us.
It is a mythical leprechaun-like creature, and we take pride in the fact that we're the only school in the nation that has that mascot. So
wow.
It's a long story about how it got named that way, but it was a turn-of-a-century thing.
Wow.
Anyway, got into sports medicine because I was a mediocre at best athlete and got hurt a couple times pretty seriously and didn't enjoy my rehab experience. So I thought, hey, I want to be in sports. I know it's not going to be me in the sport, so how can I be around it more? Mm-hmm. And rehab kind of got to be my calling card for that. And so I went to school for physical therapy. I became an athletic trainer at the same time, and got very lucky because I got some high-level internships when I was in St. Louis. Spent a summer being on the bench with the Cardinals, which was awesome. I got 2 summer and fall internships with the Rams while St. Louis Rams were still there. Mm-hmm. I graduated from PT school. I then got a job with NFL Europe, which existed. I'm dating myself. I was going to go to Cologne for 6 weeks during the World Cup, which was going to be awesome.
What year would that have been?
2006.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And NFL Europe training camp was based out of Tampa at the time. Okay. And 2 days before I was set to leave for Tampa, I got a phone call from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, gosh.
And they had an opening. And I said, yeah, I'd love it, but I just signed this contract with NFL Europe. And so they got me out of that. And I went to Tampa for 2 weeks until they could find my replacement. Straight from Tampa, flew to Philadelphia. That was the first time I'd ever seen the city. It was my first day of work.
Yeah.
7 days later, after working for the Philadelphia Eagles, 7 years later, after working for the Eagles, coach got fired, and we all knew he was getting fired.
Right.
And at the time, it was going to be, are we going to make a jump with him? Mm-hmm. Are we going to go back home to St. Louis? My wife and I had a 1-year-old at the time. And because St. Louis is kind of home base for most of our family. Mm-hmm. And we were hearing Arizona. We were hearing Tennessee. And we're like, all right, Nashville would be cool, but that's still not quite close enough because we kind of wanted to get back to home base somewhat. And then out of nowhere, Kansas City came, like over the top, offered coach a job. And so it was just like, okay, how can we make this happen? Like this is... My family's 3.5 hours away from Kansas City. I still get to do the job that I like, that I'm really good at, but I'm still closer to home. And so enjoyed a great 5 years here, 2013 season through 2017 season.
Yeah.
And, people are going to laugh when I say this. I got bored.
That's okay. And I did just laugh, by the way.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I got bored because we were seeing the same old injuries, time and time again. And there's people out there that love doing ACL rehab. All right, like let's see something else once in a while. I got really good at Achilles rehab because that's one of my calling cards in my practice. But I could tell you within, and this is to Andy's credit, I could tell you within a 5-minute time span what we were doing on Tuesday in November at 4 p.m.
Wow.
Because he's just that scheduled and that regimented.
Right.
And I just, after 12 years of doing it with Andy, and I love that. I don't even call him Coach Reed. I call him Andy because we're that tight. I just wanted something different. And I was 37 at the time, and I said to my boss, I had a contract in hand.
Right.
And I said, nah, I'm good. Like, I wasn't getting fired. I just made an active choice.
Yeah. And
I said, I'm young enough. I can do something different. Like, I don't have to do this the rest of my life. I miss my kids. I miss my wife. And so I just decided to do something different. And it took me a while to figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I decided to open up my own business here in town because we didn't want to leave Kansas City. We love Kansas City as a city. And I did it differently than anybody else does because I didn't want to plop $100,000 down into a facility.
Right.
I wanted to take care of people, but I wanted to do it on their terms. And so I jokingly call what I do the Netflix of rehab because it's like push button. It's at your convenience. It's when you want it, where you want it. I don't have an office. I come to you.
Wow.
Be it your gym, your office, your home, your golf course. And it's a level of convenience that, is unique to the area. And there's not a lot of people doing it that I'm aware of. And I've obviously used a lot of my medical contacts through physicians and, players and things like that around town to meet some really cool people and do some different things. And I think what's interesting is that my patient load went from all high-level athletes, that could do absolutely anything. And now I have a dentist in North Kansas City that I take care of in his back office during his lunch breaks. I have a businessman in Mission Hills that I take care of. I have a gym owner that I take care of. I have a professional football player that I still take care of. But it gives me the variety to not get stale.
Right.
And, excuse me, during COVID, we all kind of had to adapt. And it was interesting because I was one of the only people that I knew that business actually increased during the pandemic because, people couldn't leave homes.
Yeah.
And while all precautions were being taken, of course, I did have to cut back my total caseload, but because I was seeing people more, that I actually offered them a way to continue to improve while not having to leave their homes, obviously taking all contact precautions and things of that nature. And I had to kick some people away because they weren't doing things the right way.
They weren't taking precautions.
Exactly. And I didn't want to be patient zero going from person to person to person, and then that affects my business negatively.
Well, so it's interesting because you kind of already set your foundation up of having this home physician or not physician, I'm sorry, PT service kind of. Is that fair to say it that way? Or,
yeah, and the reason I could keep my business going during the pandemic was I was defined as a home healthcare business, which was listed under the Kansas City essential businesses. Yeah. And so, that was fortunate for me.
It's like you could see into the future.
Well, that and, I say this deferring to a lot of people who do work in that setting. After working in the NFL for 12 years and wearing nothing but mesh shorts and T-shirts every day, I couldn't go back to doing khakis and polos in the clinic. It's not in my personality. I just needed to do something unique and different. Right. And so, during the pandemic, we all had a lot of extra time, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that I really focused on was I went and got certified by Titleist Performance Institute in golf sports medicine. Yeah. They do a certification for a bunch of golf tangents, power, golf coaching, juniors, medical, so on, fitness.
Right.
I'm the only person in Kansas City that I know of that's a physical therapist, athletic trainer that's gotten to the level that I have.
Wow.
Now, that could be, don't hold me to that.
Right.
That was as of the last time I checked.
Sean's researching it right now.
Fact check that, would you please? But so, I've utilized it to make new contacts. I've taken care of some different people because one of my biggest things in the NFL for as long as I was in was dealing with quarterbacks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so all the QBs that, we worked with for 12 years were, I don't want to say under my umbrella, but that was kind of like my specialty and working with the rotary people. Well, how many sports do we know that rotate?
Right.
Two of my favorite just happen to be football and golf and baseball and soccer and swimming and everything else and tennis and all that other stuff. But I thought if I can branch out and kind of be niche to some very unique people that have very unique demands, then that just makes the product better.
Yeah, would agreed.
And so, especially given my mobility and that I come to you or whomever needs to be seen, plus with the very unique experiences that I've had previous to all this, and now wanting to branch out and take care of more golfers, I've had the experience to go into some clubs, you know, and offer some services, or, you know, pair with some business owners that happen to own facilities around town, and really help some members to either of those places. And I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You know, things that I thought I knew that weren't true, things that, you know, not a lot of people, if you're not in the sport or the industry, know. And that's helped me grow my practice.
Right.
But it's also helped me become a better practitioner too. And I think that has been good for both sides. You know, if you kind of take yourself out of the equation, and you can get beyond your own ego. I mean, we all think we're good at what we do, right? But then learn something from it, then that only makes the back end better, right? And then people talk about, you know, hopefully you do a good job.
Yeah.
Business spreads and things like that. So
I would think from a standpoint of, you know, coming from the high level athlete, and then what made me laugh a little bit is you went from real high athletic athletes who are performing at a professional capacity, and then you went to people who think they're high level athletes, the dentists, the people in Mission Hills. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I would imagine there's some sort of reality check you have to talk to them about, of like, listen, your body can't do that. Or we need to work up to that, would be my guess, of like hip rotation or something, or flexibility in the hips, or to be able to hit the ball further or whatnot in golf. I would imagine you kind of have to have some of those conversations, or that might be where you're saying like you broaden your horizon a little bit.
Well, yeah, let's make one thing perfectly clear here. As much as I like all those guys that we all see on Sundays and we'll see tomorrow,
right.
They're not as tough as the average person.
Oh,
I mean, they're kind of pansies, quite frankly, half the time. And I call them out on it all the time too. They don't like that.
Yes, exactly.
I
love this.
But the funny thing is, you know, when you have somebody that can do everything and is a high-level athlete, they are so much easier to work with. You don't have to be creative. You don't have to critically think about how to take care of them, because they can do everything.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, your average person or a weekend warrior, or however you want to put it, they can't do everything.
Right. The coordination isn't there, so to speak, or the flexibility.
Or the strength or the flexibility, right?
Yeah.
And so then you have to get creative with how you build programs for people, because you actually have to work backward, and it's more difficult to work with somebody who has limitations, obviously, than somebody who doesn't. And so, you know, I'll use my buddy Alex Smith. He's a fantastic golfer. And, you know, it's easier to tell him to, you know, do XYZ movement, whereas, you know, Joe Blow on the driving range, you know, we're talking coordination, we're talking a concept known as proprioception, we're knowing your body is in space, we're talking strength. That doesn't translate as much. And so I find it challenging to work with those people more, but it makes me better. And it when you make a small change for somebody who can't do something, they get more reward out of it than the pro guys do.
Yeah.
Because they're used to doing that, right? And so that's kind of been the fun thing for me, is to affect change in people where they may have not had it previously.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's interesting. That's where I was thinking you were going with that, is there's probably more of a reward for you as a business owner, and somebody that does take somebody that, like you said, they can't do something, or knowing their body can or can't do something, or knowing where it is in space and time, like you were saying. That's really hard. And some people, they can't grasp that that's the reality of something, of like, they can't understand where their hips are at the top of their swing, or, you know, hello there, golfer, your hips are facing like you're finishing the golf swing versus where they should be in your backswing.
and for me personally, I'm pretty, I stay active. I'm not going to say I'm the fittest guy in the world. I've worked with some of the highest level athletes in the world. I love the game of golf. I am so terrible at knowing how to put my body together in a golf swing. And I record myself. I ask my PGA Pro friends, like, just do this. I go, I can't do that.
Yeah,
like,
help me.
How do I do that? And I have to work 3 times as hard as somebody else at my golf swing, because I am that little athletic. And I just cannot. I have so many swing faults. It's not funny. And I get around the golf course a little bit, but that to me is ironic that I know the human body, I've taken care of the human body, and yet I can't make mine do that. And that's why golf is so frustrating for me, but I love it. I have an itch. I have the sickness. My son and I play all the time. Like,
yeah.
We have problems that we keep going back and banging our heads against that. But that's why we love the game.
I was just gonna say that's why everyone loves the game, because it's always in an improvement state. You get done, even if you play your best round, you get done and you're like, man, I could have shaved 1 or 2 strokes off of that, and that's so incredibly awesome about the game, because it never ends.
Right,
it's never gonna end on the improvement, and then or equipment is gonna get better, and you're gonna change, and then you're gonna want to go use that. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I get off the golf course and I have that exact thought of, gosh dang it, that drive on 2, if I just would have, maybe I should hit driver there instead of 3-iron. What would that do? And because the game can be so different based on every shot that you hit out there.
And see, you look at it from a strategy standpoint, which I try to do too,
right,
to make myself better. But then as soon as I get off the golf course, I'm like, oh man, if I could have rotated a little bit more through that bunker shot on 15, like, okay, now I need to go home and work on my thoracic rotation. So like I go home in the basement and start, doing stuff while I'm watching the tournaments. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be better next week. This
right,
is going to be better. And so I look at it from a biomechanical standpoint, because I know my own limitations. It's just actually getting myself to be better at them.
It's interesting. I wonder how many golfers go home and have those thoughts that you just said of like, if my rotation was just a little bit better. I highly doubt that that's happening. Professional level, I would say for 100% they're doing that, but the average Joe Blow is not doing that. They're trying, how do I keep the ball in play?
Exactly.
How do I put the club face on the ball so that it stays on the planet? Maybe a better way to say that. But it's incredible. So what your time in the NFL, I don't want to dwell on it or anything, but like, what are some of the things that you feel like you learn? Like, you talk about all that. I feel like you probably learned a lot of good foundational information that you can apply to what you're doing today and or to golf. And is there anything like aha moments along the way that you were just like life changing for you, or where like you moved to Kansas City, but I guess what did you learn from the NFL that you can bring into the golfing world or what you're doing today?
Well, it's interesting because the NFL is nonstop, right?
Yeah, I bet.
For 8 months a year, late July to, now, it's 90 hours a week, 7 days a week, not one day off. And a lot of people don't realize that. And as a sports medicine people, we would get there 2 hours before the athletes and leave 2 hours after the athletes. And so you have to be dedicated to the grind, right, is the take-home message. And if you're not, you're going to fail. You're not going to be good at your job. And I'm cool with grind. Like, I've always worked my butt off and things, but I like grind with purpose. And so a lot of the things that I didn't care about that lifestyle was just being there to be there, because there's other things going on, like meetings or coaches meetings or, whatever. And I think that translates a little bit to, in my opinion, practice sessions or golfing, because let's go out there, let's bang some balls, but let's be intelligent about it.
That's a good point.
And that's one of my biggest faults. Like, I'll go out and pound a large bucket all day long, but then I get done with it and I'm just like, man, what did I actually learn from this? Or was I just doing it to do it?
Right.
And so I think as I've aged, I've tried to practice better and practice smarter and try to, actually get something out of it, as opposed to just going out there and go, whoop, that one didn't go right. Oh, that one didn't go, whatever. And
that's really hard. Like there are millions upon millions of golfers out there that go out there or anything, of going to the gym or even, going to hit practice golf balls. How many people actually go and say, this is what I'm going to accomplish today? Yeah, you might go into the gym and be like, I'm going to work on my arms today. And you kind of have an objective, but did you think about how much weight are you going to gain? Are you going to get a 5% gain from week over week or something, like lifting a heavier weight? And that's what, not that would happen, but in my mind, that's what you have to sit down and go, okay, if I'm going to go hit balls for an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half, whatever, what are you trying to accomplish?
Exactly.
Are you going to work on your driver or identify the weakest part of your game? For me, I think that's the biggest gap in the average golfer. Doesn't have a clue where their weaknesses truly are, because they don't keep track of their stats.
Right.
Like a professional athlete or something like that, it's easy because all those stats, I would say, are provided for them there. It's like, oh, wow, you didn't get that level of performance that you wanted. Here's why.
And I think that's, 2 points there. I've gotten so much sickness out of this game that I play so much and waste so much money on it. But like my son and I put a net up in our backyard, right? And so I live down here in Brookside, and you know, I'm not going to lie and tell you that every ball has gone in the net correctly. And so, you know, we live close to other people.
Right.
So, but, you know, I can videotape my swing and I can send it to my friends and say, well, it's this, that. And that's helpful. But then, you know, that level of practice only gets you so far. You still have to see where the ball goes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
Yes.
And so that's awesome for, you know, a quick 20-minute session or whatever when you don't have time to make it to the range. But I like to see the ball flight, and I'm not putting up a TrackMan in my backyard.
No, too expensive.
I'm not doing any kind of simulator in my tiny little house.
If you're like me, I have 8-foot ceilings. I can't even swing. And be like,
no, I go down to my basement and I try to, you know, do stuff from time to time on form stuff, and it's just like,
donk.
Yeah,
donk.
exactly. But you know, going to the range is one thing where I can practice myself. But the unique part about what I've tried to do is, again, utilizing some of the technology that the Titleist Performance Institute app brings into place, is that we can identify swing faults. We can identify what body mechanics cause those swing faults.
Interesting.
And then I actually prefer to do that with a teaching pro.
Okay.
Because let's say you're a teaching pro and you're saying, well, this person can't get through the ball because they keep chicken winging or, you know, they're early extending. Well, I can say, all right, well, let's do a screen. Let's do a full, you know, analysis here, and let's see if what you're seeing is real. Because what I'm seeing versus what you're seeing may not actually be the case. Right. And so if I'm telling you that this person has every physical quality to do the motion, well, then it's a technique issue. It's more teaching. Whereas if the person's saying, well, they can't rotate through their shoulder.
It's as far as I can go. Yeah.
Well, then that's on me.
Right.
And so then there's a reciprocal relationship there. And that's where I've really enjoyed working with teaching pros and learning from them. And I think that symbiosis, that relationship makes for a better product going forward.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've really, in this time period where I've kind of shifted focus to a lot of golfers, I've really tried to reach out to a lot of teaching pros and learn from them and say, you know, this is what I want to accomplish. How do I do it? Because I'm not a teaching pro.
Right.
I don't pretend to be. I don't have that skill set. So I have to learn from them, and I have to listen to what they're telling me.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if the relationship's good, they're doing the same on the back end. So, well, I say, no, this person has this much hip rotation. They should be fine. Get them to understand that while they're swinging. Or, you know, oh, I see what you're saying. This person needs more ankle dorsiflexion. You know, just technical stuff that when we speak the same language, it makes that person over there a better golfer.
Absolutely.
And that makes them happy, and that helps everybody, right?
Absolutely. That would be pretty darn cool. I could see, you know, many people taking advantage of that, even, you know, on some degree, you know, where a teaching professional could reach out to you and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing. There's probably, I'm guessing, like, and this is how I equate it in my head of like, there's probably a series of tests that could be run on that golfer to give you an idea of where their hip rotation is at, or what their level of flexibility is. And then together, the teaching professional and yourself can come up with a plan to get them to where they need to be on maybe some goals that they might have. If they want to gain 10 yards on the driver, it's like, okay, well, they need to have a lot more hip rotation, or they need to be able to, you know, I don't know, but, you know, have more shoulder rotation or whatnot. And to me, as I was a former teaching professional at one point, and what we would say to them was like, well, stretch your hips. You know, what?
Exactly.
You know, it's like, okay, well, how do you stretch? You know, it's like, okay, you gave me what I need to do, but you're not giving me any sort of how. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think to build upon your comment, you can tell somebody to stretch their hips because that's what you're seeing. Right.
You're not turning enough.
But it's my job to tell you if that's really the reason.
Yes.
Or is it something else that's causing that? And maybe the hips are absolutely fine.
Right.
And so I think that's where it builds and gives a more powerful experience to the golfer, right? And, you know, you have to separate this into two categories. You have the pros, right, which have every advantage in the world and have everybody in their ear. And a lot of them do travel with personal trainers or personal physical therapists or personal chiros, and that's awesome, right? But what we're going to see, I think, moving forward in the next 10 years on the recreational level or the amateur level, however you want to put it, is that more clubs, be it private or public, start seeing the advantage that they can offer to their membership with this.
Yeah.
And, bringing people such as myself in on a retainer basis, on a one-time basis. I've done educational clinics. I've talked to people in person. I've done, one-on-one things with people that just have a specific issue. Mm-hmm. And then I think clubs are going to start to see the advantage to that for their membership and say, hey, look what we've got over here that XYZ club on the other side of town doesn't have. That's why you need to come to us.
Yeah.
And, selfishly, from a business standpoint, that helps me.
Yeah.
But it also helps the club, and then it helps the membership. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people, I think that's the new trend that you're going to see.
I think there's some golf courses that are setting the foundation for it. I mean, Great Life has a lot of that. So a lot of their, and I know that it goes beyond what I'm about to say is beyond what you're saying, is they have the fitness places in place, but they might not necessarily put an emphasis on creating a program that allows them to take advantages of, hey, if you come in and take lessons, you're also going to get these training sessions with Aaron, or Aaron's going to be part of this, or it's TPI certified program that Aaron's behind the scenes writing it. I almost foresee you as being like this satellite, physical therapist that's moving around all these different clubs and being part of it.
Now you're seeing the vision a little bit.
Yeah. And that would be incredibly cool.
Yeah. And so, I want to make a very clear distinction. I've told you already, I'm not a teaching pro, and I don't try to be. So many facilities, especially the private clubs, have fitness professionals, personal trainers, and people that head up their fitness programs. I'm also not one of those.
Right.
And to people on the outside, those professions seem very close. And while there is some carryover, there's so many more differences than there are not. And so, like, one of the clubs that I work with has a fitness professional, and that person is excellent at their job. Mm-hmm. I make sure to tell the membership, I'm not that person.
Right.
Like, I'm here to help you get to that person if you have a medical problem that person can't address through fitness.
Right.
And, there's a big separation of church and state there. And I think what I wanted to tell, people as much as I can is that if you try to do somebody else's job, like not staying in your own lane, you're just going to get yourself in trouble. That's why I don't teach people about swing faults.
People can Google everything, Aaron. Come on. Like, I'm a physical therapist.
In my time working with various entities after the NFL, I did a lot of injury reporting for football, both in writing and on websites and things. And it's amazing how you can Google something in a hurry and still be extremely off base. And that's just the reality we live in.
Never happens with the golf swing ever.
Oh, no. Yeah. No. And, I think what's important to note is that we live in such an era of transparency that if I'm not honest with you about what I can do for you, you're going to find me out in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to smell blood in the water, and then you're never talking to me again. So it's better for me to say, look, I'm really good at my job. This person over there can handle this particular issue better than me.
Yeah.
The golf professional is where you need to be. The fitness professional is where you need to be. I'm the medical guy that can take you from 0 to 60.
It's creating a network of specialists.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking to go 0 or 60 to 100. That's not me. I'm looking to take you from where you can't function or where you have an actual problem as opposed to performance. Mm-hmm. And, I can do performance stuff. It's not within my realm of possibility, but if someone is better at it, then I'm going to take you there. So then the overall product is then again better.
Yeah, the end goal would be better. 100%. Yeah. It's like, it's the, going to your primary physician and then them recommending going to this specialist because that's not what they do.
Sure.
I mean, and that's, some of the things that I think that you have brought up that are incredibly interesting is just the connection. I don't think that the general public or the golfer is dumb by any means, but people don't stop and think about the fact that ankle flexibility might be really inhibiting them from having some sort of hip rotation too, because as dumb as it sounds, as simple as it sounds, it's all connected.
No, and it's true. It's funny that you bring that up because other than, I used to work in a contact sport, right? And we would say you can't prevent trauma. Well, especially in a contact sport, you can't prevent trauma. If you're incurring acute, traumatic injuries on the golf course, we need to talk about what style of golf you're playing.
Right.
And, so what 9 times out of 10, what we're dealing with is an overuse or it's a lack of strength or mobility. Right. And that doesn't happen overnight in an acute injury. That's a chronic thing. Mm-hmm. And so, let's say you have golfer's elbow. Well, in your particular case, for your body, golfer's elbow may not be caused by something at your elbow. right? It could be shoulder, it could be wrist,
right?
And so it's my job to break that all down and tell the golf professional, hey, the reason this guy's pushing it off to the right so much is because, XYZ reason for whatever that person is.
He can't do this. He can't.
Right. Yeah. He's got no lumbar rotation, or, he's really, really lacking in his shoulder turn, whatever the problem may be. And just because I have golfer's elbow and you have golfer's elbow doesn't mean it's come from the same cause.
Right.
And so I think that's where you get down to the specificity of the issues, and you individualize something for somebody and they appreciate it that much more.
Yeah.
And
I think it's pretty cool what you just said. As you were going through that, I was sitting there. It's like, wow, just think of what you would bring to the teaching professional. And then they would look at it and go like, okay, here are the 9 different ball flights. Here are the paths of the swing. How can we get him or person or her to do that? Based on, maybe their lack of ability to do a certain move in the swing. Well, how do we get the club face and club path to be where we want it to be from that? And I think that's the combination of the two of you working together is create a pretty dynamic and awesome routine that someone can do to get to that, or a program essentially of steps of how to get to A to B.
And it's a terrible, terrible business model to try to get people better quicker.
Right.
I mean, that's awful.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to approach it from, technology where you release just a portion of what you're going to release in 10 years, just very slowly.
I have found, especially with people who are looking for, minuscule changes, that if you can provide them a bolus of stuff and say, do this, this, and this, and you're going to see something pretty soon.
Right.
That goes farther than, dripping it out and playing the long game with people, because
there's some degree, and I'm 100% on the same page with you on this. There's some degree, though, that an improvement in one part of your game exposes a deficiency in your other parts. So your score, I think that's very something that yourself being involved in the teaching professional and then the golfer that you're working with, they have to acknowledge the fact that what are they measuring? What is going to measure improvement? Is it driving accuracy? Okay, well then you have to measure the fact that your driving accuracy is getting better, not just a feeling. Oh, I feel like I'm hitting more fairways. Or if your greens and regulation go up, that might expose that you're a terrible putter. And and then you're all of a sudden, you're still shooting 90, but you've 3-putted 10 greens now instead of 2 like you did before, because you weren't hitting, you're only hitting 2 greens a round. And so that's where I think it's really the program stuff that you're talking about, I think could really benefit every golfer. But I think the game plan has to include how you measure that.
Yeah, and in our industry, excuse me, we say if you don't measure, you're really not doing anything correctly, right? And so in golf, we measure by made fairways, missed putts, did you miss right on
proximity
this hole?
to hole.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In my industry, we measure it through actual measurements, right? But also the quality of the movement too. And so there's a little bit of art and subjectivity to what we do, but there's a lot of retest.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so if I screen
you... sit and reach. I used to do that in high school all the time. No.
Presidential certificate, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, okay, let's do this. Let's measure you. I'm going to give you some stuff to do over the next couple weeks, and then I'm going to measure you again.
Yeah.
Because 2 points. One, if we're not making progress, that's my fault, because I didn't give you the right things to do. And if you just didn't do them, well, that's a whole separate issue.
Right. I was going to say there's also that part.
Well, right. But then it's a checks and balances for myself to make sure that I'm on the right path too. So if I'm really seeing what I'm seeing, or did I screw up something?
Right.
And so if you don't retest, or track, or whatever, however terminology you want to put on it, then you're just wasting time.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there's 1,000 different apps to track how you play on the course, right? No free ads here, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about which ones we like the best. But when I started doing that, to your point, I started seeing, trends in my game, which made me play holes on courses that I frequent differently.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I'm pushing it to the right here every time, I know I'm losing 2 strokes because I can't get up and down. And all right, well, maybe I'll take an iron off of this tee instead. And so that's what helps my game, right? And until like one of these PGA pros out there listening has all the fixes for my game, I'm going to continue to adapt like that because I have more fun, right?
Yeah.
But in my industry, we do the same thing, right? Well, okay, so my back was sore after I got off the course and I couldn't play for another 2 days. All right, well, let's address why.
Right.
It might be flexibility, it might be strength, it might be technique,
Yeah.
or maybe it's a combination of all of that. And, in golfers, medically, we see, 4 major regions of injury: shoulders, wrists, elbows, and backs. You just don't get many knees or ankles to the extent as you do the other things. There's some neck sprinkled in there a little bit, but we try to focus on how to help those areas the most: backs, shoulders, necks, or backs, shoulders, wrists, and elbows. That has the most impact with what we do. Now, that being all said, we know as we've gotten further on into this that the legs are so much more important than what we always gave them credit for.
There, yeah.
But we just don't see the injuries happen there. Most people are strong enough to overcome that, but then they end up compensating somewhere else up the kinetic chain. Well, if you don't have a great, hip turn, how do you get there? Do you tweak your shoulder too much to get there? So on and so forth, 1,000 different examples. But again, kind of doubling back, that's my job to figure that out as to why you're not doing that. You may not be turning as much as you think you are, but where's it coming from? And then how do we address it?
Yeah.
And combining that with the teaching professional, well, maybe that person can't do that, right? Maybe they can't get optimal stuff. So how do we accommodate? Do we get it someplace else? Do you teach them a different technique to swing, and then they can clear themselves through the ball? And again, those things can't happen by myself. Like, I have to have help with that. And that's why I think...
Do you foresee, like, in the future of where you would be on site maybe during a lesson in like, even like a 15-minute of, okay, I'm just thinking, like, breaking it down. Someone had like an hour lesson, like there's clearly like a warm-up period that everyone should be going through before they go play golf. No one does it, maybe 1%. Or Angel Jimenez does his little stretching awkwardly on the range, but with a cigar in his mouth.
He actually does some pretty good stuff.
I would imagine, actually, because he's opening up the hips a lot from what I feel like he's doing.
No, he does some silly stuff, but he does some pretty good stuff.
Yeah. but I think you were agreeing in the fact that you foresee a day where there might be, the lesson will evolve into differences of it. It's not just about the club and the hands and the swinging, it's not what it is today. It's about physicalness. And I don't want to go to Bryson yet, but I think that's the level of what we're seeing now is the game technology has evolved. I'm not saying that it hasn't, but the improvements that I think we see a lot of the times are professional athletes and golfers are taking care of their bodies better. They're understanding that, oh, this is my tool also, and if I don't have the flexibility, if I don't have the speed is not coming from the club itself. No. It's coming from the body. And so I think that you're seeing a big transition in the fact of people are more serious about their fitness now, and they're understanding that that can help them on the golf course. In all sports. I'm just saying golf because we're on a golf podcast, but yeah.
To address your first point about the
what was my first point?
About
I don't remember.
About
no,
the
I'm
lesson.
joking.
That's some of the partnerships that I've made around town. That's kind of what we're trying to focus toward in 2021, and integrating, multifaceted lessons.
Yeah.
A screen to begin with, before you even get a lesson. Talk about that, then that helps the lesson, right? That dictates where the lesson can go if we know your limitations. And again, I said that we may not be able to fix everything, and so then it's just about how do we make you a more successful golfer, which leads to you playing more golf, right?
What?
And which a lot of people won't like to hear that for their spouses, but in answer to your second question, I think it's interesting. You can look up and down tour, right? And this goes for men's, women's, amateurs. The fun thing about golf is it takes all people, right? There's some very unique body types on tour. And obviously everybody gravitates towards Bryson, and rightfully so. He's a headline grabber. But look at Justin Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
He's 5'9", 165, and he can pound the ball.
Hey, it's a long ways.
And so it's technique, right?
Yeah.
And so what I think is interesting is as the game has evolved in my lifetime, we've seen all these people that used to play other sports and were super, super athletic, and now they've found that they can have success and a lot of fun in golf. And I think you're just seeing the overall athleticism level increase in the game.
Agree.
And, fads in every pro sport come and go. We used to say that all the time in the NFL. You get one offense running one thing, and then everybody would try to run.
Right?
Flash. And so for a while here, we're going to see everybody try to do the Bryson because it's been successful.
Mm-hmm. And I've gained 5 pounds. Yeah, no,
I have too, but not because of that. And they're probably going to have some level of success, but that doesn't mean that it's the long-term answer. And time is going to prove me right or wrong on this. And I'm at least wrong 15 times a day, so I don't mind being wrong. But what I think you're going to see is more people taking better overall care of their body, and maximizing their opportunity to use what they have. Because we are all sitting here at this table, different sizes, right? Well,
me being the largest, I know.
We can challenge that offline. But I think that goes into how you play, right? Like I can go out there and swing a driver 120 miles an hour. I've got that on a simulator.
Right.
But my ball flight does not look like yours. I promise you that. And so, there's a give and take in a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's where, again, the symbiotic relationship between, somebody who does what I do and a teaching pro and a fitness pro and the golfer itself, you kind of form this team of people to help take care of people. And granted, we're talking about some pretty high-level stuff here, but it can be expanded out to your average everyday golfer. And a lot of people around the country are starting to do this at different facilities now. And me putting my own riff on it here in Kansas City is what I think is most appropriate for me right now. I just think that as we move forward, you're going to see more people using more data points to help them improve, as opposed to rolling out of the car and getting a small bucket and rolling.
Yeah, the days of John Daly, a cigarette and Diet Coke, and heading to the first tee. It still will happen, but
he's just a completely gifted athlete that happens. I use the athlete term very, very loosely with John.
I would
Daly.
say he's an athlete. I just because I think what he does is athleticism. I mean, the hand-eye coordination that he has is pretty incredible.
I would call him having athletic traits as opposed to being an athlete. He can whoop me on the golf course, and I think I'm probably a better athlete than him. But so you get what I'm saying.
You hear that, John? He's coming after you. No, I think I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, and the data points, and it's just the evolution of having more knowledge. Knowledge, you can do more with it. We're just connecting the dots between the biomechanics and then the swing. And it's the evolution of even the ball flight. I call them the ball flight laws, and they're really ball flight rules. Well, that whole philosophy has now changed. It used to be the club face was what would spin the ball, and now it's the path. They say it's, the club face sends it and the path bends it. Well, 15, 20 years ago, it was the opposite. And so it's just understanding, and what has allowed that to happen is technology. The TrackMan, so the stuff that we can see, the RPMs on the ball, we can see the spinning, and it's like, well, wait a second. When we do this, we're getting more of a bend in the ball than we're doing with just having the club face bend. So I think it's really cool to where we're going to go. And then specifically with, you talk about apps and stuff like that. What is it's going to be crazy. This isn't a question to you, but I'm just like, the possibility of the future of what is going to be available to the everyday consumer of the golf is going to be awesome.
And people around the country are monetizing that now.
Yes.
Not only for somebody, just a regular golfer, but in what I do. Mm-hmm. And they're taking it and they're putting it in apps and they're putting it at your fingertips, because that's just our culture now. Like we want everything here, right? And I have like 10 golf apps, so I'm guilty as anybody. So,
and you use all of them.
Sadly, I probably do.
Yeah, exactly.
I have problems like every golfer in the world. We're obsessed.
Put my score in this one. Put my score in this one. Put my score in this one. All right, cool.
Yeah. So that's just where I see the future of the game going. And more more data points to help out not only obviously the pros already have that kind of stuff, but help out your average everyday person to if they shave 5 strokes off of their game, like they're happy.
Yeah.
Right. If you get that person to break 90 for the first time, they're ecstatic. And then, I don't know, I just feel like that makes for a better overall product.
Absolutely. I can totally relate. When I was in Chicago and I taught a guy lessons, and he was an average golfer, probably actually above average, shot around, high 80s and mid 90s or low 90s. And he got to go play, I'm trying to think when this would have been anywhere between 2006 and 2010, and it was Oakmont. The U.S. Open was at Oakmont, which I cannot remember. It might have been like 2008 or something. And the guy that I was giving a lesson to got to go play Oakmont the week right after the U.S. Open. And I'm like sitting at the golf course, and he calls me, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. Get to talk to him. And so he's on the other end of the phone. I'm like, hello. And he's just dead quiet. I'm like, hello. And he's like, Billy, I just shot the best round of my life at Oakmont. He shot like 82 or something like that. And he'd never really shot in the low 80s. And here he goes out to a U.S. Open golf course and shoots the round of his life. And I was so happy for him. I mean, like, not going to say I was crying, but I mean, it was an emotional reaction for him and myself, because it was like everything that we had been working towards on the practice tee came together for him at the pinnacle. And it was like, I've been waiting to do this for forever, and I got to do it in front of all my friends, and all of a sudden it was so awesome. He's like, I shot the lowest score of everybody, and he'd never done that, and it was just like this pinnacle moment in his golfing career. I'm sure he went on to have many more pinnacle moments after that, but it was just so cool. And I think that's what you're saying, is that product at the end, if you can help somebody become more physically fit so that they can have a better golf swing in tandem with a PGA professional, is going to be a win-win.
And I think that's kind of what I preach to my clients, is that I don't whatever activity that you want to get back to, if it's baseball, golf, soccer, whatever, football, I don't worry about you playing that thing again. I worry about the steps that it takes for me to get you there. Because if I skip steps and I don't do that the right way, then this thing at the end is never going to take care of itself. If I do things on the front end the way I'm supposed to, and I address those deficiencies, you're going to be a good golfer. Like, I don't care about that. I care about the things that I can control in, your range of motion, your mobility, your strength, because I know that's what's going to get you there.
Right.
And I'm not a golf pro by any stretch of the imagination. So
someday, no
way. It's way too much minutia for me.
Yeah. So how do if someone wants to get on your radar of being able to work with you, how does someone go about doing that? Are you accepting new clients or customers, I guess?
I am on a limited basis right now. I'm doing a lot of traveling for work outside of the state. I have some clients that are very excited about what I'm bringing to them right now. So
nice.
I'm busy.
Good.
And that's never a bad thing, but that limits what I can do here with my Kansas City base.
Yeah.
And my wife has to work too. So I am accepting new clients. I have a website, BorgmannRehabSolutions.com. I'm on way too much social media, Instagram and Twitter at Rehab All-Star. I'm out there for people that want to find me. And, I'm happy to work with anybody for any condition, knowing that if I see you, I can help you, and sometimes there may be somebody else that can help you better. And I'm happy to refer that too. I'd rather somebody get good care, and I tell that to people all the time, than, me lose a client and then, me work with somebody for a month and no results kind of thing. Right.
Not too proud.
No, I know my limitations. I try to stay in my lane as best as possible. But yeah, I'm out there. Like I said, I'm usually at a couple of public golf facilities pretty often to help out. I've partnered with some private ones here in town, looking to always partner with more and make more connections. I'll have a phone call with anybody about anything.
That's awesome.
Reach out.
Yeah. So Kansas City, you say you love Kansas City. Give us some reason. Why?
So grew up in a rural area. Went to school in Midtown St. Louis, as I said. Lived in Philly for 7 years. We lived right downtown in the heart of everything. Loved that experience. When I had kids, wanted a little bit more room in life, obviously. Yeah. And so when we moved here, and we live in the city in Brookside, as I said, and we like what it has to offer. We can walk to some places. You can walk to get on the bus to come downtown, to get onto the streetcar or whatever. But yet we have a yard. And, we have city parks that are really close by. We got in at the right time, definitely before things skyrocketed in our neighborhood, and I'm very appreciative of that. But at the same time, my wife has a great job here. Our kids love our neighborhood and their friends. Didn't want to move for the sake of moving right now. And I think KC has a lot going for it in a good way. And I know for people out there, that's tough from somebody from St. Louis to say that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't hear what you're saying from people from St. Louis very often.
Kansas City needs to get the chip off their shoulder. They're a great town. All right. Now,
that's so good.
The other town has a better baseball team, but Kansas City's a great town. All right. I love KC. I love St. Louis too. Everybody just needs to chill and relax.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But I once heard a person from Kansas City call St. Louis an East Coast town, and I said, "You have no idea what an East Coast town is."
Right. Yeah. Go live in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Or so, yeah. That's crazy.
But we like it here. Now, I can't say that we're going to spend the rest of our lives here.
Right.
But, you know, we like it for now, and it's been really good to us, and I like a lot of the golf courses here.
Yeah. Now, that's an interesting question because, like, I find, I haven't clearly lived all over the United States, but the amount of great public golf courses in the Kansas City area seems to be pretty high and affordable too. There's some upper echelon public golf courses in Kansas City that, I think about when I lived in Chicago, and not dogging on Chicago, but their public golf courses there, they're pretty bad.
Not to mention
they're munis, and that's nothing against the munis here, but our municipal golf courses in Kansas City are well above theirs in Chicago.
Yeah, and because of the location where we live, we play a lot. My son and I play a lot of munis. Our friends and I play a lot of munis. But to harp on your point about Chicago, there's not as many closest courses in a major city like there is here.
Right.
You can get to 5, 6, 7 courses within 10 or 15 minutes of this studio right now.
Right.
And in other major cities, and I'm not here to debate whether KC's a major or a mid-major or whatever. I consider it a major city.
Yeah.
We have an international airport.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. Like in Philly, when I lived in Philly, you had to drive forever to get to a decent, affordable golf course that wasn't a private club. And, I have one 5 minutes from my house. I have 3 of them actually 5 minutes from my house that are decent courses. And we love playing those. Not to mention you get to know the GMs and everything like that. You can form those relationships. I haven't actually. I have to actually stop and consider this. I haven't played one country club here in Kansas City.
Oh man, we gotta fix that.
Almost 9 years.
We gotta fix that.
It's been all public, and I love it. It's a variety. You don't. I like the changing of terrain here. You don't get that in other places.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, I think it's fun. We have the only Donald Ross course in Missouri.
Right. Crazy.
And you can debate how good it is or whatever. I'm not here for that debate. Some people have very strong opinions on that course. We have a phenomenal practice facility inside the city at Heart of America.
Yeah.
My son and I play the par 3 course all the time. My daughter is learning how to play, and she's 5.5. So, but
she's getting there.
She's getting there. She has pink clubs and she loves them.
That's awesome. So does Sean.
And it's fine. Bubba does too. It works.
Yeah.
So I think we have a wide variety here, and that's what I like about it. And, whether I go to the Kansas side or whether I stay on the Missouri side, it doesn't make me any difference. I'll play anywhere, usually anytime. Prefer first tee time if possible.
Right. Yeah. Get out there early. Yeah. Get home early.
One of the coaches that I used to play with, who's now just recently got a head coaching job in the league, he and I would play every Saturday in the off season, and he wouldn't play unless we could get the first tee time.
Hey, no one slows you down.
And so the courses, the team actually had partnerships with some of the local courses, and so then we'd get passes and whatnot. I'd show up, half an hour, 45 minutes before the tee time, hit some balls, hit some putts, get loose. He'd roll up out of his car, hit 3 putts on the putting green and roll. And he was better than me, which really made me mad.
Shoot 72.
Yeah, some people are just better technical golfers than I am.
It's a testament to me, that hand-eye coordination aspect of it. Some people have gifted, the John Daly's and the Brooks Koepkas and stuff, where it's just like they don't have to practice, or they have such good muscle memory. Yeah. If they do something once, it's like, oh, I can do that 1,000 times.
And he was a quarterback in the SEC, so he always leaned upon that. And so
gifted. Right, well, he's gifted. Yeah.
I played a little bit in high school, so there's that.
Exactly. I'm just as good. Well, what do you think about tomorrow? Super Bowl tomorrow. Kansas City Chiefs are in. They're playing Tampa Bay Bucks. So any predictions?
No, I stopped making predictions years ago because I was always wrong when I worked for the teams that I worked for, so I stopped. It's a complicated answer because obviously I worked for one team.
Yeah.
But I have so many friends throughout the league due to my time in the league.
Well, I thought it was interesting. Sorry to interrupt and cut you off. I thought it was interesting. I forget which podcast I was listening to, but you are a big Tom Brady fan.
I appreciate what he's done.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. And I thought that was really well said when I heard it, because it's like, you can't not respect him as an athlete. He's so good. You can maybe not like who he is, or stuff, which is kind of weird to say, but I thought it was really cool and that you said it that way.
It's hard to knock results, and my friends that'll listen to this will debate me to the ends of the earth about it was all his other defenses or special teams that helped him along the way. I mean, listen, the guy shows up and he wins. Like, you can argue to the ends of the earth, but he's the one with all the jewelry on his hands.
Right.
And so
his 10th Super Bowl that he's going to.
I'm not here to debate his personal life or his intricities. I can just say that from somebody who was in it forever, I appreciate how successful he's been.
Yeah.
And, especially given his age and what he's been through physically, that takes a lot. When we see average careers not last anywhere near that long, and granted, we can then talk about how the rules have gone to protect quarterbacks fairly, unfairly, and all that. That's a whole other discussion. To answer your question, I have more close friends on the Chiefs than I do the Bucks.
Right.
Obviously for the city, it'd be great if Kansas City won. I don't root in games anymore. I don't watch a ton of football anymore.
Yeah,
even
that's
in
what
general.
you're saying. Yeah.
I root for my friends to do well.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll be interesting. I think if they can maintain, I'm just corny when it comes to sports and stuff like that. If they can maintain who they are and just go out there and have fun, I think they'll win. I think if they're true to themselves, and that's where when they played the Browns, I was like, man, this is a dangerous situation because the Browns were coming in with a chip on their shoulder of like with Kareem Hunt coming in and stuff like that. And I think they wanted to knock his previous team down. And, I think same thing with the Royals back in, 2014 and 15 is the reason they got to where they were is because they just got, I always think back to The Rookie. Have you ever seen the movie The Rookie? When he walks in and he goes, hey Brooks, we get to play baseball today. And I think that to me is like, how you should approach almost everything, specifically when it comes to golf, is like you can put in all this work, you can put in all this, working with your body, working with your swing, but ultimately when you go to the golf course to play, just go play and have fun. You're going to have better results than sitting there and overanalyzing everything or analyzing everything as you go.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because my friends and I, we all live scattered throughout the country, and we have an annual thing that we get together for, and it's going on 13 years now, I guess, 12 years.
Wow.
We jokingly call it Man Fest, which is very misogynistic, but we play 3 competitive rounds, and the loser, we do 2 teams of scramble, and just two teams of 2 people, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so we play 3 competitive rounds over 2-3 days. And the loser of those 3 competitive rounds buys dinner.
Yeah. For everyone.
For everyone.
The group.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, that's the fun competition part of it. But then after that, we play a game where we switch up the teams, we scramble the teams, and we get, a little bit loose. And we have set rules for this game that I think we've created it. It's the only game I've ever heard of. It's called a Round of Fun, where everybody starts from the tips. And then the losing team has to, imbibe in between holes, but they get to tee off from the reds after that.
Oh, gotcha.
And so the losers always go to the reds, and the winners stay at the tips.
Yeah.
And so then it tends to even itself out. But then on par 3 holes, everybody plays for themselves, and closest to the hole and not closest to the hole and not lowest score also have to pay a penalty, so to speak. And so that brings the. We have both swings. We have the competitive swing and then the really fun swing of both of our tournaments every year. So, I think that's the beauty of the game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have my best friend lives out in Colorado Springs, and we play, we call it the golf-a-thon, and it can be any number of rounds. It might be 5 rounds in like 2 days or something like that, or 5 rounds in 3 days, or 2 rounds in 1 day or something like that. And we do it every year. And we have dumb rules, like you're saying, but we don't do the buying dinner thing. But the loser of the previous round has to be at the golf course prior to the other person arriving. They have to be waiting in the parking lot. When the person gets there, the winner from the previous round gets there, they don't have to carry their clubs. They don't have to do anything.
Nice.
So I lost the last time, so I had to carry his bag down to the clubhouse, and then I ended up losing the match. Then, so you have to carry the clubs back. But it's all just about being humiliated. And then we have a shirt that is entirely too small for each one of us, and you have to wear that shirt during the round, and it's fun. I mean, it's buds getting around and doing this. So more people are coming into it now, and it's going to just, I know it'll evolve into something like you're saying. We'll have like 13 years of doing this, and it'll just be like, what the heck is going on?
We do something similar and put in one of the rounds where we all wear matching outfits in a scramble that we find, which just makes us look completely ridiculous, but we have fun with it.
Oh, everyone wants to be you that day, I bet.
Everyone wants to laugh at us, but we have fun with it.
Yeah.
And silly things like that. And, getting together with your friends, like we were talking about our annual trip. We were turning it into the Masters trip before we came on. Well, obviously that got canceled this year. So now we doubled down on that, and we're going to Bandon in May.
Oh, dang.
And,
heck yeah.
We're making a swing loop through San Francisco to hit
Highland Park.
Yep. First, and then going up to Bandon for 5 days. So
sounds horrible.
Yeah. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah, I can't. Jeez. Yeah, make sure you all wear the same shirts the entire time. Yeah.
No, not on that trip.
This bride's getting married. No, just sorry. No, that'll be fun, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. You got any other things you want to hit the audience with at the end of this? Or
no, just I'm happy to help anybody out. I love talking to people about getting better and improving, even if that means somebody watches me on the golf course and can tell me how to improve, because there's that's a full book right there. But I will play with anybody. I will talk to anybody. I'll play anywhere. I'm here for the questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for coming on.
I appreciate you guys.
Right.